agreeing and they were.
Yeah.
Crazy. That's Larry. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Okay, don't sit down yet, Mylan.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, thanks, everyone. Welcome to a regular meeting of the Goldendale City Council for August 19th. Shelley, would you please take roll call?
Steve Johnston.
Here.
Leon Wheeler.
Here.
Lauren Meager.
Present.
Ellie Casey. Here. Andy Holm.
Here.
Danielle Providence.
Here.
Mylan Walling.
Here.
Okay, great. We have a full council. We'll move along to closed public comment. This is a public comment for items on the agenda. And is there anybody in here on person or on the line that would like to make a public comment on an agenda topic? We have open public comment at the end of the meeting on any topic. No public comments? Okay. We'll move along to public hearing. And the first item on public hearing is the 6-year street plan. And I'll invite our engineers, Dustin Conroy, up to talk about the 6-year street plan, and then we'll ask for any public comment to do with the 6-year street plan. Thank you, Dustin.
So I brought some updated packets because we've been working with PIB on this. I'll just pass these out real quick. It's been a moving target.
Thank you.
So this is real similar to the one that I presented a couple weeks ago, with minor changes. And we've had meetings with the Transportation Improvement Board, and they're interested in funding a bunch of chip seal, for, where they, another option is pulverize, where they can pulverize existing asphalt and do double shot chip seal or single shot chip seal. And so we're working on an application that we have to get to Chris Workman with PID this Wednesday. And so the first portion of this, the 6-year street plan, the streets are the same as at the last meeting, with our application going in for the West End Garland Street. And the second portion of this is the auto seal portion, which TID has approximately $1 million they'd like to grant to the city with a 5% match from the city, and then chip seal or auto seal, and also pulverizing the road. So that's kind of the second one with the red and yellow on it. And so they presented us a list of streets that needed it, and we worked with Doug Branham at the city and put this map together. It comes to just under $1 million that will be covered by that grant. And so the streets are too numerous to name. You'll see that there's a bunch of them on there, but that's what we're presenting for the 6-year street plan. And so this portion of that $1 million will be spent next year on a chip seal or auto seal, pulverized, kind of depends upon what phase or classification those roads are in. So we'll have to look up there, but there's a big chunk of the city that's being covered by that.
Yes, Steve.
this page, that's quite long. All these, streets are scheduled for 2025 for the chip seal,
Yes,
okay? Pulverizing and or just the chip seal.
yep. Or they also have this, a new product, kind of an auto seal. It's like a dirtier rock. You know, chip seal is like a real clean crushed rock. Auto seal is a dirtier rock. Yeah, not washed, not screened as much. And, they've been trying it over the last couple of years in the state and they've had good luck. And so they're recommending that, in this area as well.
What's the advantage?
The advantage is it looks more like, it's not so open graded. It looks more like a paved street after years, what they're saying. You can't hardly tell the difference between a paved street and that auto seal.
So that material, that excess material is just absorbed into the oil, let's say, the dirt.
Yeah, and it goes in and actually, fills the cracks better and seals it because of all the fine materials in that. It is what they're telling us.
Okay.
I don't have any experience with it. I'm going off their expertise.
Who's that?
Transportation Improvement Board. They've been trying it in multiple areas in the state.
Is it cheaper?
It's about the same price as chip seal.
Yes,
2027, it shows North Mill Street for Broadway to city limits. There's been discussion about sidewalks out there and some widening. Is that part of the plan for this?
That would be part of the plan. TIB will fund sidewalk on one side. And so it would be proposed to only do it on one side. Also kind of right there at, where we cross the Quicktap River, kind of a pinch point there on that bridge. But I think there is enough room to get 2 lanes of traffic and a sidewalk on that existing bridge.
What about where it crosses, like,
So that is actually right at the city limits.
oh, it is?
Yep. And so there need to be some coordination with the county and see if they're interested in doing that piece, but that piece would be a difficult portion, whether we did a pedestrian bridge across that. Or that culvert would have to be extended. So that one
Yeah.
requires some work.
Well, at least to phase 1, maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Justin, so anyway, I'm looking at, Mill Street, the green, it says now here on the chart, 25. So what are we? How much of the Mill Street are we doing then? Is this the green, isn't that Mill Street?
It is. And so we would go, from Broadway to the city limits. It doesn't quite show on this map going all the way to the city limits, but, it would go all the way to the city limits where that line is.
Okay, and then from there it goes to the county.
Yep.
Up to the fairgrounds.
Exactly.
Okay,
And we propose to take sidewalk all the way to the city limits. I
yeah,
think it would be a good connection point to get the fairgrounds connected on a pedestrian.
oh, absolutely. That's been an idea for some time. Yeah, thank you.
any other questions or comments from the council about the 6-year street plan? Now, is this the point where I open it up to public?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a public hearing. So I'll also open this up to any public comment regarding the 6-year street plan. Is there anybody on the line or here in person that would like to speak about the 6-year street plan? And no more council input or questions about the 6-year street plan. Okay. Hearing none, I will. So should I get a motion to close the public hearing?
No.
I close the public hearing on the 6-year street plan. And now we'll move on to the next public hearing, which is a closed record public hearing for the Captain Jack Commons RV Park. And I'll start off with Larry Bellamy. Would you like to start us off on this?
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry, this is,
My name is Quentin Plant. My office has been city attorneys for the city of Goldendale for decades. I would say decades conservatively. And the mayor's asked me to preside over the public hearing today. I have a script that I'll read as we go through it. This is a closed record public hearing, for generally speaking, so the point of that is that there's no new testimony, no new evidence that's introduced during today. So, I'll read this. The following procedure is used by the Goldendale City Council to meet appearance and fairness requirements and to create or supplement the hearing record. Tonight's closed record public hearing includes the following land use application. The application type is a conditional use permit. The applicant is 216 Simcoe LLC. The property owner is 216 Simcoe LLC. The proposed project is Captain Jack Commons RV Park. It's on property that is zoned in the comprehensive plan as commercial with an actual current zoning designation as general commercial. The property is vacant. The closed record hearing will now begin. The hearing must be fair in form and substance as well as appearance. Is there anyone in the audience who objects to the participation of any council member in today's closed record public hearing? Hearing none. Do any of the council members have an interest in the property or the land use application sought by 216 Simcoe LLC?
No.
Hearing none. Do any council members stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of today's hearing? Hearing none. Can each of you hear and consider this in a fair and objective manner? All showing in the affirmative. Has any council member engaged in communications outside this hearing with opponents or proponents on the issue that you'll be hearing today? If so, you must place on the record the substance of those communications so that others interested may have the right at this hearing to rebut the substance of those communications. Hearing none. Thank you. The hearing will now continue. The purpose of this hearing is for the council to review the record and consider the facts. The only questions to be answered by the council today are the Board of Adjustment's findings supported by evidence in the record? And did the Board of Adjustment correctly apply adopted city ordinances? In just a moment, staff will provide an overview of the application, and I'll ask Larry to point. I realize you have a big packet with quite a few papers, but the precise findings by the Board of Adjustment are in that packet. And I'm sure you reviewed it, but I'll have Larry sort of point you to that spot as well. You may not adopt new findings, and you may not elicit new evidence. No new testimony is allowed. Any clarification of the record can be requested, but it cannot allow for the introduction of new evidence. The record you have before you in your packet is generated by staff. I'll ask Larry to now provide an overview of the record.
Okay, the applicant filed a conditional use permit and submitted a land use application and site plan for the recreational vehicle park with associated equestrian use at the property located at 216 Central Drive. They did this in February of this year. And a later time, they also submitted a secret checklist for the project in April of 2024. On April 23rd, 2024, the city issued a SEPA threshold determination of non-significance. And the SEPA threshold determination was not appealed. The property at issue is zoned in general commercial, C2 by some way too. And an RV park is a conditional use in a C2 zoning district. On May 9th, the Board of Adjustment convened an open record hearing to consider whether to approve or deny a CUP or a conditional use permit. The city issued a staff report on April 22nd of 2024, and you'll see that in tab number 5 in your packet when we begin the hearing. And this table tab number 5 is part of the administrative record. The staff in that staff report, however, did not recommend approving or denying the conditional use permit. Thereby, this Board of Adjustment met on May 9th, open record public hearing. And at that record public hearing, they heard testimony and reviewed documents and voted to deny the application for a conditional use permit. The minutes of the meeting are in the administrative record under tab number 7, which is also in that. The Board of Adjustment issued a written decision on June 24th, 2024, a copy of which is at tab 11 of the administrative record. And the appellant thereafter, Captain Jack Commons Recreational Vehicle Park, has filed a timely appeal, which is the last tab, number 13 in the packet. So that brings us where we are today.
Thank you. Council members will now consider the record and discuss among themselves the facts and testimony from the open public record, or from the open record hearing.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and open it up to council discussion. Just let's make sure we talk one at a time and observe the instructions that we have.
If there is no discussion and no request for clarification, the subject is open for decision. The council may affirm the decision of the Board of Adjustment, or the council may reverse the decision of the Board of Adjustment.
So this time I'll entertain a motion to either affirm the decision of the Board of Adjustment or reverse the decision from the Board of Adjustments.
I do have a question. I do
Yes,
have a
Dion.
question. But what is the letter dated, April 15th from City of Goldendale? It says, Simcoe Ave, the RV park in Goldendale on Simcoe Avenue are complete minus the SEPA checklist. Was that ever submitted in here?
It's in there. Yes, it's in there.
Yeah.
It's in here? Oh,
Yes, it has been included. The secret checklist, I believe, is
Thank you.
record 2.
Does that answer your question, Keon?
yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other council members have any input? Or I'll entertain a motion.
I do have a question in regards to the equestrian barns or the usage for horses. How many horses, do we have an ordinance that states how many horses can be within city limits? On a specific property?
We do, it's a square footage. We don't have an exact square footage, but there's an ordinance or is an area that talks about.
That's what I thought. I just don't know how much.
Their horse has so much square footage.
You have to have an acre.
Yeah,
I believe 3 large. I believe it's in the packet too. I just can't remember.
I know that the package said 4 point some odd acres total, but this would be in one specific area. So because it's used for, it's zoned commercial too, and would have a conditional, is it split up in different zones? So for instance, would it be split up between those 4 acres and only allowed for, a certain amount per acre? Or I just want to make sure that if we say this is correct, then we're correct with ordinance too.
Well, what, I mean, clarification I can provide is that, the CUP, the conditional use permit was denied, and that is, what you're talking about is not a factor that was part of the conditional use permit
Okay.
review, that's on. Yeah.
Is there anything in here that, for example, yeah, who does the cleanup? Is it responsible of the owners of the horses? Or how often, or has that anything been put in here?
I mean, I think there was testimony at the hearing that's in the minutes that they would keep the place clean.
Okay, okay, all right, okay.
It says, or, this is on page 2. It talks about equine living quarter vehicles. So, and it also talked about stalls. So I guess my worry would be if they're correct on the amount of stalls and how many horses are in the stalls, this doesn't cover, how are they gonna limit the amount of equines that are in the living quarters in the equine vehicles? Or would they have to be housed in the stalls and not, and the vehicles that are there are just to transport them to and from? Does that make sense?
Just for clarification, are you talking about, page number 2 or item number 2?
Page number 2, or I mean, under the second area that we have. Under the SEPA checklist, it's under 10, second paragraph under 10. It says the 4.75 acre site will contain 59 RV stalls reserved for short and long-term recreational, motor coach, or equine living quarters vehicles. So are those vehicles just for transportation of the horses, or would it be also for them living? I think that would make a difference in whether or not we would go above and beyond the amount that we're allowed to have in city limits. If there was also horses in the stalls.
Can you see what she's talking about?
I can, but I'm just not sure I understand the question.
So they have stalls, right, that they're saying that they want to have 4 horses to stay in, correct? But they also, this states that there will also be 59 RV stalls that are reserved for different things from recreational, motor coach, or equine living quarters vehicles. So my question is, out of those sites, they wouldn't necessarily be people living in them, that would be equine transportation vehicle, living quarters vehicle. So if, let's say there's, and I'm just making up numbers, let's say that there's 20 of the actual RV sites have horses in them because they're the equine living quarters vehicle, they're living in those vehicles. Will that go more than the amount that we're allotted on a specific amount of property if we also have horses in the stalls? I know it's complicated. I'm trying to, does anybody understand what it is that I'm trying to say?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
No, it's a good question.
It's a gray area.
So I think
That was my internet.
it would be a horse trailer. And so, you know, obviously when you're traveling with horses, they would be in the back of the trailer, but towards the front of the like gooseneck trailer, there would be actual, like a bed and
Yes.
stuff like that for people to stay. That's the term living quarters. It's for people, not the horses.
So the horses would not be staying in that Also, they would have to stay in the stalls that are provided
Are you asking
then?
if the horses can stay in the RV stalls? Yeah, I think the answer to that's probably no. I mean,
But how do we know? Because of the way that this is worded, it says, or equine living quarters vehicles, because the people, like she said, could be living in the front, and instead of paying the extra fees that they would probably have to pay for them to go into the stalls, they could just keep them in the equine vehicle. I'm not a farmer and I don't have horses, so I'm not certain if that would even be feasible.
Representative of can you answer that question?
Yeah, there is no intent for the horses to stay in the RV area. It's, and actually, if you read the appeal letter, we address lots of these items, and I think that's number 13 in your packet.
I read it. Hard to decipher some of the stuff. Thank you.
And Dean Kellen is also on Zoom, for the project, through the application as well.
Okay, thank you.
Got 9A through
I'm sorry, which,
9A.
thank you. It's almost there.
If it would be helpful, council does have the authority to allow someone to speak if they can confine their presentation to maybe reviewing what needs, would that be helpful to council? It's.
I think what would be helpful to council is more time to review and research this, but I don't know if we have the ability to extend this out for the future meeting.
I worry about doing that just because it's closed to record, but I think council probably has the authority to do that.
Does Mr. Callahan want to make a comment on this? What the future plans, or does he want to do that? Or can I ask that?
Sure. Excuse me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I think, and as Dustin mentioned in our a letter, our appeal letter, we recognize that the equestrian element was maybe a little confusing, and what was our intent? And the intent is, I think someone correctly identified it, is that there are a number of travelers that come through the area in living quarters trailers where they have a couple of horses in the back, and we wanted to provide a pin. I wouldn't call it a stall. I would call it, a catch pin in the center of the project that would provide a stopping place for people to let their horses out for the night before they carry on. This is not a long-term equestrian holding area. It's not a veterinarian clinic. It's basically a component of the project that's looking at the market and providing a solution for a need. That being said, like we said in the letter, we would happily submit an animal management plan that maybe covers a lot of these gray areas and dots some I's and crosses some T's on some of the things. One of the things that's been brought up tonight, and any of the other areas, like how often are the pens going to get cleaned? Is there feed and water provided? Is there a way to like we said in the letter, that the property is fenced with a 6-foot high privacy fence. So, you know, some of the concerns of the neighbors hopefully would be mitigated by that. So our hope would be that you would approve this project with a requirement that we would submit an animal management plan that identifies exactly the details of this equestrian component.
Thank you.
And I'd be happy to answer any other questions if you have them tonight on that subject.
Does anybody have any follow-up questions? Mr. Callan? Hearing none?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Theon. Did you have a question?
Oh, I was
Theon?
curious. So prohibited animals, roosters, stallions, bulls, swine, wild and exotic animals are strictly prohibited. Wow.
I think she froze.
I think she froze too.
We'll come back to her if she unfreezes.
Do you think that was a question for me, or because I can answer that? I think again in that
Okay.
appeal letter, we were very specific that these are horses. These are not bulls and cows and other exotic animals. These are horse pens. These are short-term horse pens.
Thank you.
far as asking for more details from Mr. Callahan, do we want to? How do we ask for that? I mean, that's.
You can't ask for that.
You say that, I can't?
That ship has sailed, yeah, I mean, there was already,
Okay,
he already had the opportunity, I mean, so this went to the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah, right.
Everybody had an opportunity to, people who,
gotcha. Okay,
yeah, that was his opportunity to present
okay,
everything to you.
okay, thank you.
I will say the city planning staff has determined that the application technically, right, meets the requirement, the site plan requirements for an RV park. So from a technical perspective, right, the dimensions are adequate, there's, you know, there's facilities, technically. The question for the Board of Adjustment was whether they're entitled to conditional use permit, which is governed by your ordinance, and they have to consider these 6 things, and they found it didn't satisfy all 6 things. So that's really the decision you're asked to make.
Steve?
Ready to entertain a motion.
I'll entertain a motion. Now it can be one of 2 motions to either confirm the decision of the Board of Adjustments or to reverse the decision of the Board of Adjustments. Did I get that right?
That's correct.
Quentin?
Okay, I would like to move that we accept the decision, confirm the Board of Adjustments decision.
Okay, we have a motion to confirm the decision of the Board of Adjustments. Is there a second?
I will second it just so we can come to a vote. And
Okay,
do that.
I have a motion and a second to confirm the decision of the Board of Adjustments to deny the request for the RV park. Discussion? I have a motion and a second. I will entertain any discussion if there is any.
I do have a question.
Yes,
So
Danielle.
basically, we're voting then on whether or not the Board of Adjustment made a correct decision or not? Is, or, I mean, that's what it's kind of sounding like. You're shaking your head yes, you're shaking your head no, so I think there's confusion on what it is that we're actually voting on.
We're confirming their decision.
Yeah, the motion is to confirm the decision of the Board of Adjustments.
And the decision of the Board of Adjustments, was there anything legally in that that went against any ordinances for them not to do it? Because you said technically they were within the correctness, right?
Okay, yeah, okay. So you have your packets there,
Right,
and what tab is the findings of fact?
I think it was six.
5.
Five.
If you go to 5,
Actually, it's, we talked about number 11.
number 11, the hearing, the Board of Adjustments.
That's the
findings of
last
fact.
finding of fact.
Yeah, so to issue a conditional use permit, they have to review these. 1, 2, 3, 4. There may be 8 findings. Right, A, the proposal is compatible with the comprehensive plan. B, the proposal is compatible with the purpose and intent of the zoning district. That kind of goes on and on. They found that the proposal did not meet 2 or 3 of those requirements. So they could not issue a conditional use permit, and that's what you're being asked to.
Okay,
You're being asked to determine, did those findings by the Board of Adjustment, are they supported by the evidence that's in that packet? And did the board correctly apply the ordinance? And I think Larry can read them, but I think they found that it essentially, it wasn't compatible with the surrounding neighborhood.
Yes, Steve. Yes, you can.
There's seems to be a lot of questions regarding codes and zoning amongst us. And apparently the Board of Adjustment felt the same way. And with those questions still unanswered, we asked a bunch of them tonight. We're in the dark in those regards. And I would hope you would take that into consideration.
Thank you, Steve. Does anybody else have I have a motion and a second. I'm still given opportunity for discussion. Any council member who hasn't had a chance to speak yet? Like to speak on this topic?
Well, I mean, it looks like they've dotted all their i's and crossed all their t's. When it comes to this appeal to the Board of Adjustment. And it does look like quite a unique facility, unlike any we've ever had. The last fire that was out of town, out near Ponderosa, no one had anywhere to take their animals when they were, they were parking on the side of the road. It was kind of scary. Just even having like a relief spot for that, and for people that come in or traveling through fair. I don't know. It says they're going to have a pickleball court and all kinds of stuff. They're going to manage the manure. They're going to make sure that's going to give someone a job. What else was I reading there? I honestly think they did a really good job with putting a lot of this together, and going back and forth and having to go appeal and back and appeal. So I don't know what the big concern is, because all of the main concerns looks like they've been answered in here. Like the noise, the smell, the bug, the aesthetics. I would say I don't agree with the Board of Adjustment decision.
Thank you, Fiona. Yes, Lauren.
I just noting item 11's findings of fact document is helpful in understanding the board's decision process. If everyone's had a chance to review that. 11. mean, I would love to have more time to look at this, but when I look at some of these items, like I can't find myself disagreeing with their determination.
Yeah, so actually, why don't we, I mean, we can walk through it. So why does everybody go there, number 11?
This-
You go to the second page there. You see that paragraph number 8? Releasing that. So this is the standards, it's perfect. A conditional use permit must be processed in accordance with the statute, your ordinance. And the Board of Adjustment may approve a conditional use permit only upon making the following findings, and we've got this A through H. Does everybody see that?
Mhm.
Yes.
These are the things they have to find in order to issue a conditional use permit. And so then if we flip through the pages, the next page, we have paragraph 11. In paragraph 11, you see then below it, the A, B, C, D, that is their finding on each one of them.
That's what I
So the question for the board is, do you agree with these and are they correctly applied by the Board of Adjustment? You kind of have to flip between them a little bit.
That's what I was thinking.
A to A, B to B. They found it met some, it was neutral on some, and it did not meet some.
Thank you, Quinn. Give everybody a minute to review. That was an important piece of information there.
I think they did their due diligence on this one. So I would really like to see another nursing home in town, but and there's no mobile homes allowed at all. It's just for campers and trailers.
Any further comments? I do have a motion and a second on the floor. So unless there's any further comment or counselors would like to be given a little bit more time to read what Quinn just had us turn to. So the motion on the floor is to confirm the decision of the Board of Adjustments. I have a motion and a second. Unless there's further discussion, I have a motion and a second, and I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor?
So we're voting on agreeing with them.
Yeah, the motion is to confirm the decision of the Board of Adjustments. And is that understood
Aye.
what the decision, okay,
yes,
okay. I want to make sure that was understood. The motion was to confirm the decision of the Board of Adjustments.
yes.
Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote now. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Motion passes.
Fiona, what was yours?
Fiona?
Fiona, what was your vote? You're on mute.
Nay. Or can you hear me?
Yeah, got it.
I have it as 5 ayes and 2 nays. Okay, the motion passes to confirm the decision of the Board of Adjustments. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay. Now we'll move on to the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? And the consent agenda.
Agenda and consent agenda, Mayor.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda and the consent agenda. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We'll move on to presentations. We have a presentation of our second quarter budget review. And on the line, we have Jen Forsberg.
Good evening.
Thank you, Jen.
All right. Sandy, can I share my screen?
Yep. Okay, you're the host.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you for your patience. Tonight we're talking about the second quarter review for the city. And we've gone through these reviews before, so it's pretty fast and there's a lot of information. So if you have any questions, just ask along the way. We start with the general fund. And with the general fund, as of through June 30, we've collected 49.89% of the budget compared to 59% collected in 23. And again, you'll remember that we have changed the allocation of sales tax so that those street fund and the public safety fund get the sales tax directly. So that's the difference between the 2 years. So you're actually doing exactly where it should be for actual revenue collected. You're at 50%, which is right where we want to be. And how that looks is you can see property taxes are a little higher than 50. Sales tax is doing really well. We budgeted for 800,000 and we're at 567. Taxes are right at 50%. Leasehold taxes are probably a little higher than we budgeted, so that'll end higher at the end of the year. It's not a significant revenue amount, but it is still higher. We budgeted some grants for projects that haven't started or we haven't gotten revenue yet, so that's why that one's so low. State shared is at 65%, and then you can see the rest are moving right along. Fines and penalties were higher than last year, so we're doing good there. And then other revenue sources and interest are higher than last year. So overall, the general fund revenue side is doing as expected, right on track, which is a good thing to see at this point of the year. On the expense side, expenses were at 42.84% of the budget compared to 50% in 23. Actual expenses are down a little bit, and again, that links to the sales tax because it used to be a transfer out of the general fund, and now we aren't doing it that way. So it is a little skewed with the actual expenses when you compare them year over year. So when you look at it as a whole, again, the legislative is because we have some salaries, not the mayor's salary wasn't going to the right line item at first, but that has been corrected moving forward. But the rest of the departments, other than facilities, risk management and other, their insurance has increased between years. So we will need to make sure the 2025 budget includes a higher amount for the insurance. And it looked like there had been some city hall repairs that have put this amount higher than the prior year. Otherwise, everything is right on track. Protective inspections has to do with, I think that was insurance costs as well that weren't there in the prior year. So we'll get that allocated correctly with the 2025 budget to make sure that we're have a correct budget to compare to actuals moving forward. But the bottom line is we're at 42% 6 months into the year expense wise. So the general fund is looking good. Moving on to the utility fund. The revenue collected is at 28.98% compared to 52 in the prior year. Again, these numbers are kind of skewed because of the capital projects that the city has budgeted for, which adds quite a bit of revenue for the grants that you're receiving for those capital projects. So that's the difference between the 28 and the 52 is the large amount of capital project money at 6.2 million. So you can see the charges for goods and services are the actual, utility bills and whatnot, and that's at 46% compared to 49%. We did budget more with the rate increase, so overall, that's coming in as expected, which is great. On the expense side, again, with the capital, it is a little skewed, but we're at 26% of the budget compared to 46 and 23. Actual expenses have increased 94%. And again, that looks bad, but it's really because of the capital projects. So you can see the wastewater treatment plant improvements are at 1.1 million already through the second quarter of 24. So that's what's kind of throwing off that percentage. But overall, it's looking good. There are some individual line items that we'll look at adjusting for the 25 budget to make sure that we're able to actually compare between the budget and the actual. For instance, the water administration general, that number is at 88%. So we'll make sure that the salary allocations are being budgeted where they're actually being posted to make sure that lines up better for 25. But again, it's tracking right where we were expecting it to be. So again, the utility fund is doing great. On to the street fund. The revenue collected is at 10% of the budget compared to 106, and the street fund is very skewed by grants. So we had TIB funds received in 23, and then we budgeted for another grant, which is I always say the wrong name. It's a street project, and it is the Byers Street. Is that right?
Yes.
That we applied for, but I'm not sure if we actually got that or not yet. So when you look at the actual sales tax that we have going to this fund, it's at 50%, which is exactly where it should be. And then the intergovernmental revenue is grants as well. So we will do, if we don't do the grant project, then that will stay low, but that's okay because the expense side reflects that as well. The 426,000 is the transfers, the general transfers from the general fund that are not the sales tax related. And we just haven't done those yet this.
Steve has a question, Jen.
Question, what is the special sales tax?
That is the percent that was increased to go to the street fund and then public safety. Sandy, do you have the technical term for that?
0.5% that you
That's
asked
what I
about.
thought. That's what I thought.
It's just something that we set aside for things exactly like that, for special projects.
Okay, well,
Right.
we'll discuss that later as far as that line item. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, with the way the screen shares, I couldn't see you had a question. All right. On the expenditure side, again, 25% of the budget compared to 68 and 23. And the big project last year looks like it was the Genie Lift project that's skewing the expenditures. And then the Buyer Street project that we're still, I'm assuming we're still waiting on hearing.
I think it's the Schuster 3.
Is it Schuster? Okay.
Schuster 3.
Buyers was last year then.
Yes, that one's
Okay.
completed.
Sorry, I'll update that. That's terrible. I'm sorry. Just to get the right streets. So again, otherwise, we're at 52% for roadway, street lighting's at 12%. And then the administrative services was one of those payroll lines that we need to adjust for the 2025. The other funds, they're all doing.
Hold on just a second, Jen. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Steve.
You said you're going to have to adjust administrative services. It's way out of whack. What do you mean by adjust?
So we're gonna take and basically what we did for the 24 budget is we just use the prior year budget, but the salaries of certain employees have been reallocated between funds, between different line items. So we're gonna take the actual where people's salaries are actually being allocated and make sure the budget or the budget document reflects that.
Thank you.
The Parks and Rec Fund, again, is doing as expected on the revenue side. It's mostly support from the general fund, which is the 132,000 budget. The is that Glendale? G-Dale? Housing?
in Goldendale.
Okay. Makes sense. It's also at almost 50%, so we're doing well there. Economic development, we're going right along as planned. There's really nothing going on that we didn't expect in these funds. Again, here's the Public Safety Reserve Fund with that sales tax at the 50%. Capital Improvement Fund, Criminal Justice Fund. There's nothing going on that we weren't expecting in any of these. The Tourism Fund is doing well. Summer's coming up, so I'm assuming more stays will bring that 75,000 higher. But we're in line with last year with the 28 and 29,000. And then the agency suspense fund is just one that we put in there to show you because it is in and out of the city, but that's the money that we pass through to the state, like for court and some of those other things. On the expense side, assuming there's no questions on revenue, I don't see any. Again, Parks and Rec, we're right as planned. This was the 85,000 is a grant potential project. The housing, again, we didn't have any expenses last year. Economic development, we had a large grant last year. That project is closed out. So that's pretty minimal activity for this year. The capital expenditures in the Public Safety Reserve Fund was a grant that the fire department received. So there will be a revenue offset to these expenses. We just haven't received that yet. And then the Capital Improvement Fund We haven't had any expenses yet. Criminal justice program, some minimal expenses for the K-9 program, I believe. Oh, no, here's the K-9 program. So that's operating supplies. So the K-9 program was over here. I just remember because it was higher than 60 or 50%. So there were some expenses that occurred. The tourism fund, we have some projects that are approved that haven't occurred yet. And then again, the non-expenditures out of the suspense fund are according to the budget. So the bottom line is overall, the city is looking pretty good. Everything's tracking where we budgeted it to be as a whole. The general fund is looking solid. The utility funds are looking solid. And then there's nothing out of whack within the other funds as well. So questions, comments?
Nope. You guys have any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Comments?
Doesn't look like the pen.
What was that?
Nope, I don't think they have any questions.
Perfect.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay. Great. Well, we'll move on to next item on the agenda, and that's department reports. And I'll start with Police Chief Mike Smith.
Fire. First of all, we got our new patches in with our new logo.
Oh, nice.
New patches compared to what we had before. They turned out pretty well.
Oh,
Very good.
yeah,
Like
for sure.
Pleased with them. So you'll be seeing officers with the new patch, new logo. And so if you want to pass this around, you can take a look. So excited about that. Our new officer Dustin Horse starts on the September 4th. So we'll get him online. That'll bring us back up to full staff right now. This last week we were up at the fair all week. That went really well. We handed out the rest of our bicycle helmets. Pretty much depleted all of our funds this year for the items that we dispensed with. We had beach balls we gave out to kids, and then we do a kind of spin wheel thing. Kids, coloring books, different things to educate kids and people out in the public of what we do and why we do it. And so that went really well. This is our kind of last event other than trunk or treat coming up. So we're ready to start focusing on next year's supplies and redo that. So if you know anybody that wants to donate bicycle helmets, we're always in the need for that. I know a company a few years did, we gave 500 helmets. We're now currently out of those. We get the last ones out of the fair. So those are always a big thing to keep kids safe. So other than that, things are going good. So we'll just keep trucking along.
Thank you, Chief. City Administrator Sandy Wells.
Just a reminder that the next training then will be for best September 9th.
Right.
At 4.
Great.
Make sure everybody has that on their calendar. So that's a
What was that?
September 9th is gonna be that next WCIA training at 4 o'clock, so that's not before a council meeting, so that's on an opposite Monday. So just a reminder.
Great. Okay, anything else, Sandy?
Nope. that's all.
Okay, we'll move on to council business. Okay. So at the last Public Works Committee, we talked about this. The committee recommended bringing to the city council a recommendation to eliminate the parking on West Broadway. So staff would like consensus from the council on how to proceed with this recommendation. Changing the parking on West Broadway will require the city to take certain steps, including but not limited to legal advice, public hearings, and potentially paying for traffic safety studies, all of which will require the expenditure of money and staff hours. So before any action is taken by the staff, a consensus of the council is requested. So I'd like to open this up to council discussion. Please, let's try to play this by the book, one person talking at a time. I want to give everybody a chance to speak before anybody speaks twice. So is there anybody that would like to start off? Someone on the committee, perhaps
I'll start off.
Lauren, yes,
Um,
please.
I think this is kind of. I don't know if it's really accurate in terms of our recommendation. Our recommendation was to take it to council to hold a public hearing so we can get public input, and it's not to eliminate parking, it's to modify the parking so there's still be parking available along Broadway. It would just widen it out because there's been a number of incidents and a lot of discussions about line of sight. And so, you know, from our training earlier, I think it's prudent that we continue to look into this and have it evaluated by an engineer. Sorry, I pointed to Quinn here, but he replaced the gentleman that's speaking to us earlier. Have it evaluated by a traffic engineering firm that can give us some feedback and input that, you know, ways to make it more safe. And it is a public safety issue, so we just want to make sure we take the time to look at it and get the public input and make the right decisions.
Thank you, Lauren. Steve?
Well, also, along with that, we've got to remember that that is a state-owned road. So that will be in the mix that we have to deal with. We can't just go full steam ahead just because it goes through the city. And I think that's what Lauren was referring to. It does deserve more consideration, definitely. Maybe we could send it back to committee. I don't know.
And you wanted everyone to have a chance to speak first, Dave, so you do your thing.
Okay, okay.
My only comment is, I don't necessarily like the title of this. I understand we gotta look into it. But the way this is being presented, that the city has already made the decision, in my opinion, by the committee's recommendation. I agree we should look into it, but I just don't like the wording on some of this in the title of it, so.
And I agree with you.
It would read
Andy,
differently if the
too.
committee wrote it.
Yeah, because to me, this looks like the committee's already made the decision,
Exactly.
recommendation, and it's already saying no parking. So I don't agree with how this has been presented.
Maybe Andy? I would like to say that, yeah, I'm supportive of public hearings and we get input from them and perhaps there could be some adjustments on this, but then anyway, I like to proceed this. We've been talking about this for a number of years and I definitely would like to see the public input on this, so.
Thanks, Mal. Anybody else that hasn't spoken yet would like to? Theon, do you have your hand up? Did I see?
So,
Yes, go ahead, Theon.
yeah, hi. So, so we really just need to set up a public hearing, right? To talk to the public about this, about what kind of changes need to be made on West Broadway for visibility and see, you know, how much of the, that's all we have to do, right? Is start there.
Well, the way I see it, and
That's the next step.
please anybody interject. The way I see it, there'll be several steps we'll need to do. Because that's why we want a consensus of council, because this will require spending some money. We'll want to talk it over with our legal team. We'll want to probably go through this traffic safety study that we already have 2 proposals for. And then, yes, public hearings will be another part of it. So, you know, it's a consensus of council. I want you to give me instructions on moving forward, because it will require an expenditure of money to proceed with whatever the council chooses to do. But we're gonna want to do the public hearings for sure, seek legal advice, and most likely conduct that traffic safety study, which will be at an expense, but.
Do you think it would
Anybody
be
else?
wise to get the public hearings before we even spend that money? Because if the public is totally against it, why would we even go to the length of getting the study to do that?
That's a good point. We'll have to look into what the proper thing is to do first.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with the evaluating the parking on Broadway and whether or not it'd be better to remove that or readjust it, and that we pursue engineering advice on getting that done, as we learned in our training earlier this morning, as if we revisited several times at council. So to shorten that motion up, I move that we engage an engineering team to evaluate alternatives for parking along Broadway.
And public
I'll second.
hearings. I think in public hearing should be
Yep.
in that.
Let's get the information first and then hold the public hearing.
Yes,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would you like to repeat the motion one more time, please?
I move that we engage in engineering services to evaluate parking alternatives along West Broadway.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I will open it up to discussion. Any further discussion? Steve?
I think,
can we just add in there with the next step to be the public hearing?
Let me come back to you, Theo, and you'll be next. Steve, yes?
it's obvious that there is gonna be a process we have to follow here. And I think one of the first things that staff should do, and that is approach the state and see where they stand on this. They might say, leave it alone.
It was discussed during the Public Works Committee meeting. Have you guys had an opportunity to do that?
No, we were waiting for further instruction from the full council.
And that's my interjection here is I feel that would be the very best step to take.
The first step.
The first step would be to get a consensus from the state. Because it is their road. It might dictate the direction we go.
Agreed. That way we wouldn't be wasting money if they, for whatever reason, can't, or they could fund part of it or all of it.
Absolutely.
I think hearing from the state and hearing from the public is more important than going out and spending
I
money.
think so too.
And then to find out that we can't do it anyways.
Agreed.
But we just heard from WCIA that we need to have engineering specialty to look into these issues and have, direct advice on what's legal, what's not, and make a recommendation.
Sure, but here, what I understood from that was hearing the advice from them, yes, but we could hear from the people and then tell the advisory board or whoever it is that we go to ask for legal advice on it, tell them what the wishes have been made, and to only look at those specific things if we decide, so that we're not putting good money after bad like we would be if like the state said no, or if people, were so in an uproar that they didn't want anything done, whatever. I think it's important for the people to hear it at least.
How do we determine what that process is and how do we get it done without continually coming back to council?
Finding out state first,
Meeting,
state first.
it's a slow
The
process.
state and the engineering are the two most important parts of
I think the
this.
people are too.
Without a doubt.
Yep, and
But you
I
gotta give
think
people information to decide on. not
True.
just, give them some background, give them context, give them maps, give them alternatives, so they can make informed decisions and have informed.
But as council members spending money to find out we can't do something, like what if it costs us 50 grand? And then we go out there, spend 50 grand and they say, oh, no, we can't do that. So now we just took 50 grand and just threw it out the window of taxpayers' money.
I would think that, talking to the state, it wouldn't take them long to give us an explanation.
Right.
Really.
I think, staff could ask, I think, so whoever they talk to would be able to answer that very quickly. I think, that's my opinion.
Theo, I didn't want to skip you. Did you have your hand up?
I just want to say I agree. I think, going to the state, getting the actual information to present to the public and get public opinion and then proceed from there. I agree.
Okay. Anybody else have a discussion before I call for a vote on the motion that we have on the table?
Did we get a second on it?
We did get a second. I have motion and a second. I'll give anybody a chance for any further discussion before I call for a vote on the motion. Okay, let's reread that motion one more time because it's been a while.
I didn't get it all written down.
You have it still, Lauren?
To proceed, I think it was, to proceed forward with engineering services, get the information to be able to make decisions about this essentially. And, Danielle suggested, adding public hearings on it as a friendly amendment, I believe. So just proceed with engineering services and public hearings to get information about this proposal.
Okay, the motion is to proceed with engineering services and public hearings to move forward with this proposal. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, we have 5 ayes and 2 nays, is the way I counted it. Okay, that motion passes. We will thank you for the direction and we will start to work on that. Oh, great. Now let's move on. Under council business, consultant agreement for the water line improvement project. And for that, I will invite Dustin to come back up.
So this is the agreement for the water line project that, actually they're supposed to be on site today to start constructing, but this is the one that the Public Works Trust Fund, we went out for in September of 22. And we were, the city was granted, those funds in November of 22. And we started work on it in, January of 23. And so this was a contract when we put our estimate together for it, we figured 15%, for engineering services on design and 15 for construction services, which included, it turned out to include, the cultural resource study for the project. And also during construction, we have to have cultural resource monitoring anytime we're digging. And so we have contract with Plateau CRM to complete that. And this is also for phase 1 and 2. Phase 1 went out to bid in I think March of this year, March. And we've already awarded the contract to Swofford. We're supposed to start any day. And then phase 2 will be the remainder of the project, which will go out to bid in February.
Only question I have, Dustin, so is 15%, is that like the going rate? Is that what everyone does, or is that?
And so our contract, when we do the high view of that, that's what we figure, because we don't know what we're gonna get into in design. It was just some lines on a map that we put a lineal foot price on and put out for bid. Our contract is an hourly not to exceed. And so, it's kind of the best benefit for the city. We guarantee that we can do it for a certain amount. We don't charge any more than the time we spend on it.
Okay.
Just to give you a quick update of where we're at on it. I think we had budgeted roughly 350,000 for design. We're probably like 85% done with design, and we're only at a third of our estimate. And
Okay.
so we only bill you for the hours we spend on it.
Okay.
And so in this case, yeah,
So sometimes even though it says 15%, it can be lower, or can it be higher too, or is it like 15's the?
15
Yeah,
is usually,
okay.
you should be able to get down to 15. I
Okay.
mean, if you've got a really difficult project, it might be higher than that.
Okay, and that kind of goes on on all the projects that you guys do for the city? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, sometimes we're like in 27, 28. It just really depends total. It all depends on the complexity.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Dustin.
I move to authorize the mayor to execute a proposal with Pioneer Surveying and Engineering to provide design and construction phase engineering for the 2023 water line placement or replacement project for the city of Goldendale, billed hourly with a total not to exceed $597,314, which ratifies and confirms a prior act dated January 12th, 2023.
A second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to the consultant agreement for the Coney Park design. bring Dustin back up for that. Thank you, Dustin.
So the city received the RCO grant and the amount of 85,000 to do, work on a plan for Tony Park and Little League fields. And so as part of that, we've met with, the mayor and Sandy and Larry to kind of go over what, the city would like those improvements to look like. We contracted with Plateau CRM, who did the cultural resource study for that project. And their portion of that was about 27,500. And, we're looking at spending about 80 hours of time to develop the plan, with the improvements, directed by the city to show on that plan. And so the goal of this grant is to get a project, that is permitted and just needs funding to continue on. So our goal would be to complete the plan and then go into, complete the SEBA document. So essentially, if someone comes to the city and says, hey, I'd like to, sponsor a project down in Coney Park or Little League fields, or pay for the underground sprinklers there, that those projects are essentially approved and they can just move forward. And so that's what this contract is for.
Thank you, Dustin.
So it's not clear to me what the future improvements are. You say you just kind of get the cultural resources done and SEPA done so that almost anything can be done, or are there specific items? That
There's
are
specific
identified?
items, the city gave us, I think, 7 specific items they would like to see on that plan. I don't have them all with me, but I know one of them was, irrigation on lily fields, a covered area for picnic tables and picnic table, and picnic tables themselves. Looked at installing a basketball hoop on the concrete pad down there.
How were these priorities identified?
How are the priorities identified?
Yeah.
Well, the number one was the Little League fields. That was the gist of getting that planning grant in the first place because of how many problems we've had getting anything done at those Little League fields. That's why we had to go through all the cultural studies and this and that. So that was the number one whole gist of the grant in the first place, is to really get those Little League fields taken care of. And then, through the park plan, looking at the park plan, we identified some other things down at Econi also, but that was the gist of it under my recollection of everything is.
It's the parks meeting that you had went to, that parks meeting that they had came up with a bunch of.
Yeah, we used the items that we have in the parks plan that we've been working on so far and just kind of transferred the items in that over to this.
Did the full council approve the parks plan?
No, the parks plan isn't finished yet,
Oh,
but
but it's,
it's that running document that we've been working on. So we needed to get this grant had a timeline. So that's the information, that's a bunch of the information that we used for this grant, for the timeline.
And I think along with that too, kind of made the scope of the projects change a little bit, because I think the initial intent was they really wanted to improve the parking, the Little League fields. I think they wanted a building, which can't really be done. That's all in floodplain area. And then with the cultural resource study, proved that we couldn't dig there. So it kind of changed the scope of the project. We went from trying to improve parking to knowing that we can't do that.
Well, Mayor, I move to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with the Pioneer Surveying and Engineering to develop a site plan for the future improvements to Coney Park and the Little League fields in amount not to exceed $43,065.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 opposed. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to resolutions. It's on page here. Okay, the resolution is for the 6-year street plan. Dustin Conroy attended the meeting and provided details on the 6-year street plan during the public hearing. Including in the packet or all that we talked about before. This is the time to make a resolution, have a motion for a resolution to adopt the 6-year street plan.
I move to adopt resolution 737, adopting a 6-year transportation improvement program for city streets pursuant to RCW 35.77.010.
A second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to adopt the street plan. Questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
I,
Opposed?
I,
Okay, motion passes. Okay, thank you,
Was
everyone,
that no to the park plan, or was that
to the street plan.
to the resolution? Fiona?
I said I.
Okay, 'cause
Okay.
you were saying it after, it sounded like you were saying no, so I just wanted to double check.
Oh, okay. I
Okay.
appreciate that. Thank you.
I think it was
both
on
of them.
I think the first one she meant to say I.
Okay, and so.
Oh,
I
sorry.
don't think it was the name.
On the Coney Park, were you also the water line? The Coney Park. The Coney Park design, were
I
you
said
wanting to
I.
Okay, it
Okay.
sounded like no, so.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. Now we'll move on to report of officers. And I'll start with Mylan.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to report on the airport committee. And last week, US Senator Cantwell was in town. We had a meeting with her. We talked about a number of issues, and one was the Goldendale Airport. She is very supportive of the Goldendale Airport and working with the staff, that she said that she would work with the airport committee and we kind of go from there. Anyway, we're pleased that she was here and very supportive of the airport. I think Richard Ledeen is gonna come to the council meeting sometime and give a full report on that, but anyway, that's what I have today, Mayor.
Thank you, Mylan. Danielle.
Just good budgeting meeting earlier, and I'm glad that we have some things that we're going towards with that. Hopefully, our next, we'll be able to have our organizational meeting, administration meeting. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Thank you for all law enforcement and the firefighters right now, and everyone putting themselves in harm's way, including the posse. So just want to say thank you, because there's a lot of fires going on, and just be careful.
Thank you, Daniel. Andy.
Busy day with all the meetings and trainings, and I just think a lot of good communication today, so just thank everyone.
Thanks, Andy. Ellie. Thanks. Lauren.
What's the date of our next organizational
The
event?
night.
The 9th. 6, I think.
Let's see. It's the 9th. So we have a budget meeting at 2 o'clock on the 9th, city council training at 4 o'clock on the 9th, and then the city council organizational workshop at 6.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we're doing 2 meetings then on.
3 if you're part of the budget committee.
So the
Okay.
organizational meeting is at
Same as
6.
today.
Okay.
Wow.
I think it'll be here at 4. Okay.
Fiona. Did you have anything? Fiona?
Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone for hanging in there. It has been a long day for some of us. We've been talking about, but I really appreciated Jen and the budget. I would like for us to find ways to get more revenue into the city. And so we'll be looking at those things in the future. And yeah, thank you, fire department and police department, for all your hard work. And that tornado was crazy. I hope everyone was safe up at the fair. And have a good night.
Thank you, Fiona. Steve.
We have a public works committee meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
3,
3 o'clock.
all right. Other than that, no, I'm fine. I'm legislated out.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, the only thing I had is, I wanted to report that we, took delivery of the new Econi Park playground equipment. So that will be scheduled for installation at the end of September. So really excited to get that new playground equipment. If you remember, that's the equipment that we, purchased that's handicap accessible, that you could put wheelchairs on and inclusive. So, that's gonna be coming to fruition soon, so we're really excited about that. And that's all I had. We'll go to open public comment. Is there anybody here or on the line that would like to make a public comment? Nobody has their hand up? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, everyone.
Oh, I thought you said.
You actually gonna go home now?
Two
Oh,
phone
wait. Oh,
calls,
my God.
multiple text messages.
I don't have that.
How many people just leave me alone?
People were put together here.
So just to, I only made